You know, Star Trek fans have waited so long for this movie, and of course, you have written a script for it that was turned down.
No, I didn't actually write it. No, that was one of the terrible things about Star Trek and Star Trek fandom is these incredible rumors start.
I thought you and Gene got together with something.
We did. Gene and I got together. I was asked to come in and talk a story. I did it on 4 different occasions. We got as far with one story idea as that they sent it up to the great people on the mountaintop who put these things together. They didn't understand it. Didn't understand it at all, and so I was passed on. And happily, I must say. I think that even if they had offered the deal firm, at one point they were into money. They were talking money, and the money was ridiculous, so we turned down the deal, and they withdrew it.
When we say they, we're talking about Paramount.
Paramount Studios, right. We're negotiating with my agent. They already were into contract talks, but the money they were offering was really ludicrous. So we turned it down. But I think that even if we had gotten to the point where the money was satisfactory, I think I probably would have turned it down.
Why was it a big headache? Because Paramount didn't know what they had or wanted, or?
Well, it's a very peculiar situation. Paramount, you see, no one ever sets out to make a bad movie. I mean, even people who make something as stupid as The Big Bus, they think they're going to make something great, a statement about Western civilization, right? And Paramount really thinks that they want to make important films, and so they think of Star Trek as comic book time. And they know they've got something there because they see all these people running around at conventions and they get all these thousands of dollars, so they know that there is a market, but they don't realize how big it is or that it can be significant for them. And they're treating it in a very peculiar way. And so you have to deal with, essentially, businessmen who are in charge of an art form. They have no conceptual idea of how this kind of thing should be done. They fight with Gene, and Gene has his ideas, and for right or wrong, Gene knows what he wants. And I do not envy Chris and Alan, who are doing the film. They were, in fact, I believe, the very first writers who were contacted. They turned it down the first time, and then subsequently they were engaged, and they're very fine writers and very nice men. And they themselves say that it's the toughest job in Hollywood at the moment. I can't think of 3 writers with any talent who would exchange places with them for any amount of money.
It's just a headache, in other
words. It's a headache, It's going to be aggravation from the get-go. God knows how many rewrites they're going to have to go through because they've got to satisfy an enormous number of masters. And even if they write a fine, fabulous art film, it's not going to please 75% of the Star Trek fans.
What will it take for science fiction to in the film area to finally get off the ground? I mean, it's
Well, it's not as difficult a problem to solve as you might think. The reason there are so many bad science fiction films is that the people who are in charge, the people with the money, the people who do the financing, have no background in it at all. They've never read, they don't read much to begin with. You can't give them a script to read, you have to give them a synopsis. It's like trying to sell the Moby Dick by saying, well, it's about this nut chasing a big white fish, right? And they dig that. The way a story conference works.
I can see that.
Listen, I've stopped writing series television. I won't go near it. I haven't got the time or the patience to fool with these monkeys.
Don't you have something coming up on CBS?
Well, we're in development on a series. I've been creating my own series, and I've been writing movies of the week is what I've been doing in films for the last couple of years, 3 years, 4 years. But God knows whether that'll ever go. There's many a slip twixt the lip and a cup, as they say. That's my literary bon mot for the day. When you go to see these people, like last year, when The Man Who Fell to Earth was so popular, I got in 1 week 5 calls from 3 studios and 2 networks, and what they said to me, and a couple of them said it in exactly these words, is, look, we can't get the rights to The Man Who Fell to Earth, but it's real popular. Let's do something like that. All they are magpies.
Copycat business.
Exactly.
Advertising is the same way advertising.
They see something that works and they want to rip it off.
You think after Star Wars that we're going to have all of a sudden a flood of that type thing, maybe? If it's
probably. After 2001, we had a whole spate of that kind of thing. They thought that was the only template, the only idiom for science fiction films.
Let's touch lightly on Star Trek, because most people do not criticize that show at all. And you've had some criticism, not only of Star Trek, but television in general.
Well, my criticism of Star Trek is the same one that I have of television in general. I think television, and here I am saying it on television, I think television is basically an evil thing. I never used to think that, but I see now in all the college lectures that I do, thousands and thousands of kids who cannot read, who sit endlessly with their minds being turned into puree of garbage by watching television. And Star Trek was a slightly better than average television series, but for my money, all it was Starsky and Hutch in space. I mean, that's it, man. I mean, they kept talking about peace and coexistence, and every week there was a violent solution to every problem. If you didn't like the alien, blow him away. And it's the same as blowing away a black man, except he was green. And I found all of that very silly. I thought it defied logic. I thought the stories, for the most part, were derivative and silly and pointless. That it has such an enormous following is fine, it's terrific, except those people wouldn't travel 30 paces to hear Buckminster Fuller talk, or John Lilly talk, or Jonas Salk talk, and they would follow to the ends of the earth to get Bill Shatner's autograph.
Yeah.
And it seems to me an inequity in a universe that deifies an actor. I mean, that's all he is. He's an actor, and manages to avoid Carl Sagan and you know, the people who are really thinking the thoughts that we need to have expressed. It's like Johnny Carson time.
Let's go into something that you did that was received very well, Boy and His Dog, the film.
Yeah.
What's cooking with that now? You've got something, you're going to work on a sequel and a...
Well, Boy and His Dog has been enormously popular, and particularly in France. It's one of the hugest hits. The hugest hit, oh God, forgive me. It was an enormous hit in France. And
You're watching too much television.
That's right. My mouth sometimes runs on ahead of my brain. It's nothing.
But France loved it.
France adores it, and it was very big over here. It's made $6.5 million, and it's playing the college circuit now, and it draws standing room everywhere it plays. Yeah. I have just written a story that comes before, chronologically, before A Boy and His Dog. It's a prequel, which is called Egg Sucker, and it's a funny little short story, and it's being published in a magazine this month. And then I'm writing a sequel, which will be as long as A Boy and His Dog, and it's written from the viewpoint of a young woman in that society who's as mean as the boy in A Boy and His Dog. Her name is Spike. And the story is written to tell the other side of the story of that particular society, that brutal society, because an enormous number of women have, it seems to me with misguided logic, seen that film and that story as a sexist tract. And it's anything but that. It's far from that. I was talking about the conditions of dehumanizing after a war. But, so I have to write this sequel now from the viewpoint of a woman so they can...
To clear up the ending.
Yeah, give the other side of the coin.
Okay, what else can we expect from Harlan Ellison here in the near future?
Well, I'll run down my credentials for you. Let's say I'm playing Anaheim next week, and I'm doing club days. No.
You know, I guess the last time I saw you, it was in Salt Lake City at a
Oh,
convention.
that beautiful place.
Yeah.
Weren't the mountains wonderful?
They were. That was one
The
of the
most
nicest.
beautiful view I ever had in my life.
And then,
I opened the window, and there they were.
Yeah, and I read where you're going to be in Seattle real soon.
Yeah.
And then we'll see you in San Francisco in February.
Oh, I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be great fun.
What, you told me you have 8 conventions lined up?
I have about 10, really, 8 to 10 lined up. They're not all basically confirmed, but we've had offers. And
Just all over the country?
Yes, and we're taking our rock group in, Star. We're taking them twice, into Philadelphia and into New York. And next New Year's Eve, we'll be in Washington, D.C. with the rock concert that night. So we're very excited about it.
You're still very much involved in music.
Well, yes, that's what I'm doing mostly.
That's your favorite...
That's really my favorite thing. I've been asked many times which I prefer, acting or music. And I think I prefer music because when I sing, I am singing to an audience, whereas acting, you know, it's very cold.
Yeah.
It's hard to really get turned on kinetically when you act.
Now, we caught you in the first year of Star Trek, and then they wanted Shatner to have other girlfriends.
Yes, that's what they told me. I was very
wanted him to play around a little bit,
well,
right?
I call him, I don't know if I should call him this. Should I Space Stud?
Oh, we can do that, I think.
Yeah.
But what about the movie? Will you fit into that somehow, we hope?
Oh, I'm sure. They couldn't do a movie without Yeoman Rand, I keep telling myself. No, I think I will, and they'll probably go back maybe a few years and take us through, you know, how we got on the spaceship and our life, and then probably 10 years that's happened since the show.
Sure.
And then add new characters and go on to a whole new adventure. I'm sure they'll do that.
You told me that you may or may not, depending upon your musical director's verdict on this, but you may be giving us a little sneak preview of a song that you've written?
I've written a ballad. As my fans all wanted to know how I felt about the captain, how would I feel today, and how did I feel. So I told my husband, who's my manager and composer, I said, let's write a song about Yeoman Rand, how she feels about the captain, and take it to the writers. So we wrote a song called How Will He Love Me? And it's a fantasy that Yeoman Rand has in her quarters at night. She thinks, gee, how would he do this and how would he do that? And it's a very quiet, lovely, sentimental song. So I'm hoping that we'll have it recorded enough so that I can sing it for you at the convention.
Great, and you're working on an album too.
Yes, we've got one side all completed, and the flip side is going to be songs about the 5 favorite episodes. And one will be Enemy Within, one will be Miri, Man Trap, and the Dagger of the Mind, and they will be all lyrically about that certain episode and Yeoman Rand's point of view, possibly, or the song may be written about Miri. I don't know. It'll be how it really feels. I've written a song called Spaced Out Pilot, you know, that I sing at the conventions that the Trekkies are just in love with. That we're recording that now. That'll be on the flip side of the album too.
So we'll get to see a lot of you and hear a lot of your music at the convention.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Okay.
Largest black hole I have ever encountered, Mr. Pizer.
Consider yourselves my guests.
That madman is headed straight for the black hole. What'll we do? We wait.
Antwerp. Cuckoo is a Swiss clock.
Were you, like most of us growing up, a fan of Disney films? And
yeah,
you know?
Very much so. I remember, well, I was born in '54, and 20,000 Leagues had just been, had opened up that year. So I don't remember that. I saw it, I guess, when I was around 10 or 11 when it was shown again. But I saw all the animated cartoons, and I cried at Bambi, and remember I loved Peter Pan, and Peter making his way up the mast and the water shimmering down below. And I thought, what? People tell me that this is animation? How is this possible? And yeah, and I really had a desire to get behind those big gates down there in Burbank and see the studios. In fact, when I was, well, go on.
No, go ahead.
Whatever.
We're in Burbank, go ahead.
Yeah, we're in Burbank, and it's 1968, and 13 years old or something, somewhere around there. And we just did a little benefit over at the Hollywood Bowl for a woman whose husband happened to work over at Disney Studios. Our theater arts instructor is being thanked for the fact that these kids came down, Song and Dance Kids from Santa Barbara, did such a nice job. And he said, well, want to do me a favor to this woman? She said, sure. Why don't you get these 5 kids into Disney Studios? They're dying to get into a studio. It was my first visit to a studio. I never done the Universal tour and everything. I started off very classy. Got into the Disney Studios, and we were walking around the stages there, 4 sound stages. We were on stage 3 where they have the tank from 20,000 Leagues, and they said it was right here that Kirk Douglas and so-and-so battled the octopus. And this was a private tour for these 5 kids, and 2 of us, Gary Goddard and myself, went on to work for Disney eventually, which is, you know, the world working in big, wide circles. And it was funny that one day a kid came onto the stage, a part of a group, and I was up there hanging by these wires, and the fellow was down there on the floor saying, here we are. I should add that when I was on this tour and shown, you know, where they made 20,000 Leagues and Mary Poppins, and they were, so-and-so stood here, and this is the most ambitious picture Disney has ever made, and this and that. Well, 25, or whatever it is, 12 years later, I'm standing there, and there's the big turnabout. I'm hanging by his wire, and they said, up there's Joseph Bottoms hanging. We're in Black Hole, Disney's most ambitious film since 20,000 Leagues, and I'll always remember that story.
That all flashback before you.
Yeah, the flashback. The kid standing there going, I imagine he's
and that kid
the next
someday
one.
will be here. Will be
exactly.
Right.
So this is actually.
But that must be
a
a good feeling to know that you're working on a movie that's for
certainly
Disney to announce this is the most ambitious film. That's something. It
certainly is. Yeah, 5 years of pre-production and probably 10 years of research has gone into it because they've been researching space and certain things like this for years. But obviously they've put in a lot of work on it and have high hopes for it, and I haven't seen the finished picture, but what I have seen, the director Gary Nelson showed me, are some marvelous scenes, and this was a rough cut, and the special effects weren't added in.
We have just a couple of glossies here where we see you with some weaponry here, futuristic. You don't have your mustache.
Are you showing those too?
Right. Well, we'll pick those up a little later.
You'll pick those later?
Yeah. Right here now. Were you surrounded by futuristic stuff constantly, or?
Yeah, this little bit hanging up here in the corner, that's old Bob, one of the robots. The robots in this picture hover, except for the Century robots with the Army aboard the Cygnus.
And we have a robot here that supposedly has gone berserk.
He hovers as well. Yeah, he's very upset at this moment. Not enough coffee, and he's
or too much.
Shorting out. Yeah.
Right.
That's Maximilian.
Yeah. We have a scene coming up now. Maybe you can set the scene for us. A lot of robots are like in a gun battle. It's almost like
these are the Sentries. Yeah.
I see. It's almost like a Western scene. The old Western.
Yeah, it is. And I play the Cosmic Cowboy in this case.
The Cosmic Cowboy.
Cosmic Cowboy. Actually, Lieutenant Charles Pizer. That's my name in this. Second in command aboard the Palomino. Ernest Borgnine and I are in this scene, and what it is, Robert Forrester and Yvette Mimieux, part of the crew from the Palomino, they're pinned down under laser fire, and it's at this point that Forrester, who's first in command, Dan Holland is the character name, he gives me the order to take off and to return to Earth, and that it's impossible and don't, go on without us, and they're pinned down under fire. And it's at this point that Charlie, the youngest member of the crew, decides to go back there and help out his buddies.
Welcome aboard the Cygnus.
Hans Reinhardt.
We won't impose on your hospitality, Doctor. Just long enough to repair our ship.
Are you programmed to speak?
Reinhardt is a murderer.
I will travel where no man has dared to go. Into the black hole. In. Through. And beyond.
We kept reading about the progress of black holes, and of course just little bits and pieces of information. It was top security at the studio, very few people. Were there any unusual things happen? I know, like when they're doing Star Trek or Star Wars, people steal the plans and things like that.
Well, they were especially paranoid of losing their that idea, the black hole, and cast or special effects they've been working on or developing for years, to a show something like Battlestar Galactica was their main worry, because there's a show that, they work on it. They had invested something close to 20 million, I guess, on the pilot for Battlestar. I think it was
something
outrageous
incredible,
sum, some incredible
15
sum,
or 20
15 or 20 million. And in 1 week, they could rip off really our story and everything else. And so it was that security that that was the reason for the security. Also, they never let anybody know the surprise ending, which I still don't know. And I've read the paperback, or at least I turned me the last couple of pages, and tried to figure out just what they were talking about. But it really will take the picture, I think, for the full explanation, the visual picture. That's another thing.
What about, you're from a family of movie stars. There's Timothy and Sam.
And Ben.
And Ben. Right? Oh, four boys.
Surprise.
Well, I get confused. I know that your one brother was in Apocalypse Now.
That's Sam, yeah.
Yeah, and then I met your other brother on the set of Roller Coaster, and you might tell him that his film Johnny Got His Gun finally played on television right here.
Right. John was telling me about that last night.
Great.
From Creature Features.
Right. But anyway, how did this all happen? That's very unusual for you all to be in movies.
Well, there were no decisions made on my parents' part. That, the fact that they left that really up to their kids, their futures, their destinies were obviously, that was their problem. All they could do as a parent was to guide them and teach them and let them know, fill them with values and morals and things of that nature. But they couldn't say, look, Joe, I really think you should be a lawyer, and Tim, you're going to be a doctor. And they left it very open. And I think as a result, we sort of pulled together under one roof, maybe. I'm trying to figure it out, too. I've been asked this question quite a bit, and we all just seemed to enjoy it. It seemed to be a nice release, something to...
And you'll be getting into another portion of films with your wife, perhaps, producing?
With my wife, Dell, who recently married. It was October 16th, 79. We made a picture together. This is prior to our marriage, and this is how we met, though, a picture called Surfacing. It's a Canadian feature, directed by Claude Jutra, starring Kathleen Beller, Margaret Dragoo, Arch Thompson, myself, based on a woman's emergence, or actually a woman just rediscovering her roots. That's basically the story. She's an artist, and there's a Margaret Atwood novel. Dell was the executive producer on that, and I was in that, and that's how we met. And we started talking about making pictures, and what sort of pictures. I found out that Dell was very interested in making a family-oriented pictures and films, and she'd written some kids' books, and she's working on more right now. In fact, we have 3 kids. She brought the kids into the marriage, and I brought a little dog.
Even trade?
Yeah, as it turns out, I love the kids, and they love the dog.
Great.
But,
for our younger fans, Canada is the country that brought us meatballs.
Right, exactly,
It's
something I haven't seen, but...
Yeah, a lot of fun. Listen, good luck to you and your brothers
very much.
and your wife and everybody involved in the Bottoms clan there.
Yeah, we're certainly interested in bringing, I think, a family unit back into enjoying the entertainment created by a motion picture and motion picture society.
You find yourself sending children to one movie.
Exactly. And we're talking about this on talk shows 6 years ago, that the folks want to go off to get their jollies at the X picture, and then you have the kids that really don't want to have to go to a G, but they want to try something a little racier, they feel, a G parental guidance picture, and you're split up by the end of the evening. You come back and there's nothing to talk about, because you can't say, did you enjoy your show, because you didn't share it with them.
Right. But everybody can see Black Holes December 21st.
Everyone, yeah.
Okay.
Everyone.
We'll look for you and the surprise ending.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We're in the dressing room at the Cal Neva Lodge at the North Shore of Lake Tahoe. I've just seen a tremendous show.
with one of the real pros in show business, Milton Berle. Milton?
Cut.
It began in our prehistory with the plague that fell upon dogs.
And cats.
Hundreds and thousands of them died, and hundreds and thousands of them had to be destroyed in order to prevent the spread of infection.
There were dog bonfires.
Yes.
A lot of people will recognize you as being on the movie screen for many years.
Yes.
Who could ever forget you in Japanese War Bride? Right?
Oh, wow. Pick that one out.
No, a lot of great things there.
It wasn't a bad movie.
No, it wasn't.
King Vidor directed that, I remember. Yeah.
But some other movies, Naked City, Salute to the Marines, Winged Victory, Stalag 17, I guess. Was that the first place you met William Holden?
No, I met him before that in a picture called Submarine Command we did. Nancy Olson and William Bendix.
And I'll Cry Tomorrow, that sort of, with Susan Hayward, that wound up your career.
Pretty much where I quit acting and switched to directing.
Is this, did you want to do it, or was it just sort of
I wanted to. Oh, no. It was a very handicap economically to make that switch. I mean, I was a rather successful actor, and I started to direct, and I started parlaying. I'd say, all right, you, television with Dick Powell, I said, all right, I'll do the show, you let me direct one. He said, all right, because he was starting to direct.
Right.
And that's how I started. But then after a while, I couldn't parlay anymore because they didn't believe me because I was an actor. So I quit acting. And then they believed me.
Yeah, your TV credits look like a Hall of Fame. Alfred Hitchcock Show, Dick Powell Theater, M Squad with Lee Marvin. Yeah. What, my fans will appreciate your work in Island of Dr. Moreau, which came out last year.
Yes.
And Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
That's another one.
Yeah. How did you get hooked up with Harvey in this Omen figure?
Well, actually, he had a director that he was not getting along with, and this all happened on the spur of the moment. And I walked in, and I knew it was a good script, and I knew the first picture was very good. And Bill Holden was instrumental a little bit. He said, you know, he was the first one they approached, and he said, why not get Don? And we hadn't worked since Stalag, but it turned out. You've seen the film. It was a very happy experience, the whole cast and crew, and myself.
I asked the producer this question because of the tremendous success of Omen 1, and it was a beautiful film. Do you feel pressure when you're working on a sequel like that?
You would normally, but this had so little to do with Omen 1. It just is not really a pure sequel. It's a film in its own entity. I don't know whether Mr. Bernhardt told you. I know you talked to him. But at one point, the studio was thinking of calling the picture Damien, not Omen 2.
I see.
Because they were so pleased with it. Many people even feel at the studio that this is even a better picture than Omen 1. I mean, it certainly is a much more sophisticated script on the first Omen. What was happening on the screen, the terror that was happening on the screen to the people was happening to you. In this one, you're way ahead of the people on the screen. So it's a much more sophisticated endeavor to how you travel and watching what takes place.
As a director, I want to compliment you on a number of scenes, but two of them in particular. One, the elevator scene.
Yes.
We don't want to give this away because some of our fans haven't seen it.
All right.
But that was fantastic. I thought it was one of the most beautiful ways I've ever seen anyone.
Eliminated.
Yeah. And the other one was the hockey, the frozen ice.
I think that's my favorite because there's much more a human element, emotion involved in that. The elevator is a trick, marvelous event, I call it. But the emotion is involved, and I let my actors, I would give them a clue. I say, all right, Damien, you see him there from point A to point B, and he'd say, he's here, and the other actors would fall in. I didn't give them dialogue or anything. They just, and suddenly the boy yelled, he says, get an axe! I mean, it was all impromptu, all improvisational.
We have to give credit to Al Giddings, who lives here in Northern California, the underwater photographer.
Oh, Al's beautiful.
How cold was it?
About 30 below. He has a thing, you know, he did the deep and other many things. So he happens to be a beautiful human being. And he found, I think it's his discovery, that if you put hot water between the wetsuit and your body, you can stay under at that temperature much longer.
And 10 minutes or so.
He was, yeah, even longer.
And Lou Ayres, we have to give, how old is Lou now?
He's in his 70s.
And he was in an icy
he
water too.
He went in. They did the same treatment with him. They insulated him up. And he went in. That's pretty marvelous.
We have to wind it up now, but for trivia fans and my fans, would you Give our best to your wife, Hazel Court.
Oh, I'd be delighted. You should have seen her this morning. She was here.
I didn't know.
Okay.
Great picture.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Right.
Perhaps I wanted you to remember.
Mr. Carradine, we're in sort of a Hall of Fame here, or many of the movie posters from the past, and Dan Ferris, the owner of the cinema shop.
That's one of John Ford directed, Sunny Patrol.
Right, good friend John Ford. But we were counting some of the movies you've been in last night, and we gave up at 400.
Right, and I made 450, 451.
Is that a record?
Except for Clifton, for Donald Crisp, yeah.
Wow.
That's a record.
And he got an earlier start on you.
14 years.
14
He made
years.
his first picture in 1914. I made my first picture in 28.
28.
Yeah.
You've been at it 5 decades
50
now.
years. 50 years.
Still
in
going
pictures.
strong?
Still going strong. 50 years in pictures and 53 years on the stage.
Wow. And of course...
Made my debut on the stage in 25.
Mm-hmm. And what play was that?
Camille.
It goes back.
1925 at the St. Charles Theater in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. Where was the when you were in the Bride of Frankenstein with the blind fellow there? O.P. Hickey, was it? O.P. Hickey, remember him? You came in and said one line or two. Where was that?
I played a hunter in the Bride of Frankenstein.
And you came in as the blind man was, I believe, speaking or opening the door there.
Well, I remember it wasn't O.P. Hickey. The blind man I remember was also the blind man in The Informer.
I see.
What was his name? I can't think of it right now.
But you know, you amaze me. You can look at some of these posters here and you spot a face and a name, and then John Carradine forget anything out of all those movies? Or
instant recall.
Your roles have come back to us. You've been telling us, for instance, in Seaman with Harry Landers.
Yeah. I remember doing that, and I remember how I died on it.
How was that?
He hit me on the head with a brass knob of a brass bed.
And that was one of the few films you made in New York?
The only one.
The only one?
The only feature I made in New York.
How about It's in the Bag with Fred Allen? Rudy Valley.
That was in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I was an old man who played an organ.
Mm-hmm.
And the story was about 12 chairs in which money was hidden, or pearls or something. And it's the only thing I ever did with Fred Allen.
Mm-hmm. One role
with... He was a funny man. I remember one time he was on the air with somebody or other, and like an interview thing. And somebody asked him, did you ever have anything? Oh, he's talking to a former ferry boat captain on the Hudson River, who ran the ferry from 125th Street on Manhattan Island across the river to Jersey. And Fred Allen says, anything dramatic ever happened on one of your trips across the river? He said, yes, a man jumped overboard, committed suicide. And Allen said, rather than go to Jersey? It was very funny.
Most people, of course, will not remember the films, but one role you'll be remembered for the rest of your career, I think, is The Grapes of Wrath.
Well, that's the great classic. One of the best parts I ever had.
Do you have any fond memories of making that movie?
I had read the book, and I wanted to play Preacher Casey. And I couldn't get anyone at 20th Century Fox to listen to me. I took directors, producers out to dinner to get them to go to Zanuck and say Carradine should play Grapes of Wrath.
You were perfect for it, my guy.
And I had a friend at court in a way. I had a man named Gilbert Seldes, or had the motion picture page in Esquire magazine. And he put a box in the center of his page saying John Carradine wants to and should play Preacher Casey in Grapes of Wrath. Didn't do any good. Zanuck wanted Walter Houston. Now, Walter Houston's agent for everything was my agent for radio. His name was Lawrence White, Larry White. And he came out to see Zanuck to tell Zanuck he could not have Walter Houston. He said, Walter Houston is too old for the part. He said, the right man for this part is right here under your nose. And Zanuck said, who? He said, John Carradine. And Zanuck said, we never thought of him. And I was on a contractor. And I'd been trying for
running
over
ads
a year.
and everything.
Running ads, and taking everybody out, filling them full of my desire to play Preacher Casey. And finally I got it. Well, I got a test for it. And that was it. Ford directed the test and directed the picture. But my first experience was with Ford. My agent had been telling me about a part. He said, there's a script going around. If they ever make it, there's a part in it for you. If they ever do it and you play it, it'll make you. It'll put you on top of the business. It's called The Prisoner of Shark Island. But I waited 2 years, and finally my agent said they're going to do it. And John Ford is going to direct it. And I'm going to try and get you a test. And he's going to direct the test. So I got it. And I had another actor working with me. And Ford, for my entire career with Ford, he always wanted me to play it slack-jawed, drooling at the mouth, slobbering, squinting. Everything I did, he wanted me to play that way. Of course, I wouldn't.
Right.
I did it my way. But on this test, I tried to do it somewhat the way he wanted it and somewhat the way I thought it should be. And we didn't get along at all. He was very grumpy, and so when it was all over, I'm on the way back to the dressing room, and I shared the dressing room with this actor who was the test horse, who played the scene with me. And on the way back to the dressing room, he said, well, you got the part. I said, oh no, that man didn't like me for little sour apples. He says, I'm telling you, you got the part. I said, how do you know so much about it? He said, well, he's only my brother. It was Francis Ford.
I see.
And John Ford's brother.
Well, you became close
who was
friends.
a star at Universal, a Western star, the top Western star at Universal when John Ford was a property boy.
You became close friends with Ford after
Oh yeah,
that,
we were
right?
very close friends. I did 8 pictures with him. But he always wanted me to play everything the same way, slobbering, drooling, squinting, slack-jawed, like an idiot.
Yeah.
Even in Last Hurrah, where I played the editor of the Boston Transcript, who was a great enemy of the mayor, about whom the picture was. And he wanted me to play it the same way, like an idiot. I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it.
How about another old friend of yours, Boris Karloff?
Oh, Boris and I did the first play we both did in California together, at the old Egan Theater on Figueroa Street in Los Angeles. A play called Window Pane, which was about a mysterious thing, something like The Servant in the House, or The Passing of the Third Fall Back. The stranger appears, known as the Silver Pheasant, and he's wanted by the authorities because he stirs up the peasants. What he is a thinly disguised Jesus, who's trying to be a benefactor to the ignorant peasants. And Boris is playing a brutalized, ignorant Russian peasant, can't read or write, and who has a big black beard. He looks like Rasputin. And I'm playing their neighbor, who's a half-wit, a peasant half-wit. And this is the first play we both did in California.
And you became friends.
We became close friends. And then 3 months after that, I was sent for Universal. And I went to the producer, and he sent me out to the makeup department, and the makeup man started mixing up a bowl of plaster. Well, I, being a sculptor, knew right away what he was up to. He was going to take a life mask.
Right.
So I said, what do I play in this? He said, you play a monster. I said, a monster? Do I have any dialogue? He said, no, you just grunt. I said, well, this is not for me. I went out and turned it down.
And that was the monster,
And
right?
3 months later, Boris took it. And it was the monster
He was on his way.
in Frankenstein.
John, we'll look forward to seeing you live and in person in San Jose a little later in December. And
I hope you enjoy
I
it.
hope you continue on in films and television and break that record of Donald Crisp, was it? Donald Crisp.
Donald Crisp. Well, I haven't got far to go now.
There's a man who
Only
can break
49 more.
49 to go. By golly, we'll be
How
looking
much
for
time have I got to do 49 pictures? 1 year.
Christopher, you've made about 130 movies. You've just moved to Southern California, and yesterday on the set of Airport 1977, you said you feel like you're beginning a new career.
That's true. Obviously, after that number of films, it may sound a little strange for me to be making that remark, but I feel that a whole new phase of my career has begun to open up. That is to say, I'm getting a far greater variety of parts offered to me than has ever been offered to me before in my career. Because there is a far greater degree of production in the United States, there are more films being made and consequently more roles in more films. And the more I can vary the mixture, as it were, the more profitable it's going to be to me as an actor. So in that respect, I feel I have really begun to do the pictures that maybe I should have been doing many years ago, and certainly wanted to do many years ago.
Well, you've got a good start, The Man with the Golden Gun, the two Musketeer movies, now Airport to the 77.
That's right. Yes.
This is a very physical picture, and watching some of the outtakes yesterday.
Yes, for me there is
nothing new for you.
Yes, it is new for me in this particular instance, because I'm doing an underwater sequence, something I never have done as an actor.
But I mean, physically, the Musketeer films must have been very...
They were probably the hardest I've ever done. There is a book called Stunt, in which I'm mentioned 8 times. It might give you a pretty good idea of the number of times I have been in films in which I've done work which could almost be described as stunt work. That is to say, I've probably done more duels on the screen than most actors. And I've done a lot of knockabout stuff in movies, and a good many other things as well. I bear the scars to this day. But The Musketeers was particularly difficult for me because the film was shot in tremendous heat in Spain, and we were using rail swords and rail daggers, which were very heavy and extremely sharp and very dangerous. And I only had one eye. Of course, the other was covered by a patch, so your judgment of distance is bound to go out. This was a tough picture. In the very first fight, I had 5 in the picture. I'm supposed to be the greatest swordsman in France, that even the Musketeers avoided. In the very first fight, I tore the ligaments in my left knee, and for 4.5 months, I couldn't walk properly, so I had to strap it up and take painkillers and do the other 4 fights.
One eye and one knee.
One eye and one knee, yes, virtually one leg, in a sense. That was a tough picture. There have been many other pictures. I think you mentioned earlier when we were talking a picture I made many years ago called The Mummy. Now, in that, I had to do things that really, when I look back at it now, I don't know how I did it. Smashing through doors which somebody had cunningly left locked on the other side so that I dislocated my shoulder.
You're underwater there at the end, too.
Yes, that's true, and coming up out of the mud from underneath. That's true. That was not easy. It was more uncomfortable than dangerous.
Okay. Tell us about your part in Airport 77.
In this particular film, I'm playing an oceanographer who is a deep-sea diver and specialist in everything concerning the sea, both above it, on it, and under it. And I also play the husband of Lee Grant, which incidentally is one of the reasons I'm so pleased I'm in this picture, that I'm working with an actor and an actress whom I've admired for years, with Lee Grant, and with Jack Lemmon, whom I consider to be one of the finest actors that I've ever seen on the screen.
Stewart, Joe
I don't work with James Stewart in the film. I work indeed with Joseph Cotton in the picture. There's some mighty people in this film, you know, some very great names and some very eminent ones. And this again for me as an actor, as it's my first motion picture in the States since coming to live here, is a source of tremendous pleasure to be working in a picture of this kind and with such people.
Welcome to the USA, welcome to California, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Airport 77.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You heard about this flush campaign
Yes,
that we
I
have
did.
going here for the pay toilets.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm all for it.
You're all for it?
Yes, I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world, really, that sort of thing goes on. And I'm with you all the way. I would back that up to the hilt. Are you the man in charge of that campaign?
No, Tom Horton is in charge of that campaign,
Horton.
being backed by Bob Wilkins.
Tom
Two of the
Horton.
greatest names in show business.
Yes. I would like to say this about those two guys. I think they, what was the name again?
Tom Horton and Bob Wilkins.
I never heard of them.
Bridge. All out. Afternoon, Mr. Hartley. Hi, I'm Billy Joe McAllister. Good morning, Mr. and Miss Hartley. I'm Billy Joe McAllister. You may remember me.
There's something wrong with that boy.
By now, your papa surely knows who I am.
Oh, he knows who you are. You just don't know what you are.
Robbie, young people are always writing to me for some reason. I guess I'm hope for them out there because I'm on television, but they want to know how they can get started in films and things like that. You kicked off in commercials, right?
Right. Well, actually, I started in the theater and did some commercials. I did some looping, some dubbing, foreign films. I was really lucky. I got into anything I could do. I think that's for me. I think that's the way to go. Just to do anything you can.
Just jump in and work.
Yeah, any amount of experience that you can get is good experience, even if it falls right on your face.
Yeah,
you know.
But you started in Texas, you went east, New York, and then you wound up in the West Coast here.
Right.
You're in Jeremy.
Right. I did a picture called Jory, and Death Be Not Proud, and Virginia Hill. All
You're up for an Emmy in that one, right?
Well,
I hope so. Hope so. Anyway.
But now you're traveling in heavy company. My gosh, working with Hackman and Burt Reynolds. And what's that like for you're what, 19 years old?
Yes. That's some experience.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it really is. Like I was just saying, do whatever you can, and if you fall on your face, you fall on your face. This is the kind of place where if you fall on your face, you may never get up again.
That's right. That's right. Do they work with you, the veterans, or help you along?
Well, they did.
Yeah.
Not all
Not everyone does, yeah.
But they're the most lovely people I've ever met. I mean, I can't tell you how much they helped me, and because, I mean, no matter how much work you do, I'm still 19.
Yeah.
And when I see them, especially like Burt Reynolds, always been my idol, I'm still shaking,
Sure.
And so, like the first day, he put his arm around me and helped me out. Really, I mean, I can't tell you what that means to someone, well, what it meant to me.
Yeah, well, it showed on the screen. Fine performance in Lucky
Thanks.
Lady.
Thank you very much.
Good luck in your career.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
The day will come when everyone will know who you are, but that day is not yet.
I know who you are. Say it, Mark. Get Mark away from Damien. Look at me, Mark.
Damien, there are things you don't understand. Read your Bible.
After seeing the film, and then I bumped into you in the hall out there, and I was frightened, really. It's a funny feeling, You're, for those who haven't seen Omen 2, you're not a very frightening person, in person, but there's something about the eyes. How did you prepare yourself? Well, let's find out a little bit about you, because as tens of thousands of people start to see this film now, they will want to know more about you. And you make your home in London, North London.
Yes, that's right, North London. We live.
And I read somewhere where you were sort of bored at home one day and you went down to a drama school. Is that stretching it a little bit? Or?
That's about it, actually. I was living in North London at the time. My sister, my friends, went to a sort of a drama school. There wasn't much to do in the area I lived anyway. Sort of a Saturday drama class, very casual. So I just went down. And I was 3 years there before I went to an audition for Treasure Island at the Mermaid Theatre. And I got the part for that, and that was the first professional thing I did.
But you're not from a family of show business people?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm the only one who does it in my family.
What about, of course, the kids haven't had a chance in school to talk about this role, but you played the part of a 13-year-old. How
Yes.
old are you?
16.
16?
Yeah.
You're probably the only 16-year-old in the history of show business that's been Jesus Christ and now the son of the devil.
Yes. I played Jesus in a sort of it was a very small play, actually, on television. But, when they offered me the part of the devil, I didn't sort of think, oh, I've always wanted to play the devil. I mean, it's just a marvelous part, really. It's a beautiful part. He's in the film a lot of the time, and it's a very big film. So, and it was a chance to sort of get my face known in America. So, I just viewed it.
You've worked in live theater with Glenda Jackson.
Yes, right, Glenda Jackson.
And now, of course, in Damien, Omen 2 with William Holden and Lee Grant.
Yeah.
How do these people, do they help you with your career?
Oh, they do, very much. Not so much directly, they don't come over and give me helpful hints, but just by watching them, that's very helpful. By watching everybody, I think you can learn a lot about how to act in different situations. In the theatre, because there's a very different way of acting in the theatre than there is in the on camera. It's not so exaggerated. In the theatre, you have to make sure that everybody in the back row hears you and understands what you're saying. Everything you can't just sort of think yourself and move your eyes slightly, because that won't work. Because on the camera's sometimes that close to you.
Which comes easiest for you, the live theater or the movies?
I don't think any of them are easier. I mean, the live theatre, you have 7 weeks rehearsal beforehand, whereas on camera, in film, you rehearse the scene 4 times, and then that's it. You shoot it. And also, the camera is so much closer. There's a sort of more feeling of pressure on you there.
Now, this is what, your fourth film? I know you were in Bugsy Malone.
Yes, yes, but they're very small parts in the other films. You know, this is really sort of the first big film I've done.
I have a picture here of Harvey
Stevens,
who was the first son of the devil, I guess we'll call him, in Omen 1. And there is a slight resemblance, I guess, in the eyes, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But how were you picked for this role? Did you audition? Or?
Yes, yes. The casting director saw me in the Winslow Boy, which is on BBC television, and The White Devil with Glenda Jackson on stage at the Old Vic. Asked me to come for an audition. And after I got through the first audition, I came back for a screen test. And I got the part from that. I guess an audition.
In the movie, when we feel that the music starts to rise and we know that you're going to zap somebody or something terrible is going to happen, there's a look that comes on your face, and particularly in the eyes. How did the director prepare you for this, or is the mood set and maybe it's a viewer's imagination, or how did you work to strive for that look?
Well, that look really comes about if you concentrate on what the boy is trying to think, what the boy is thinking, why he's trying to get rid of the people he is at the moment. Well, then the look sort of makes sense. The lines help you a lot, really. You know, I mean, if the boy does want to get rid of somebody, and he's got that power, that's how he does it, you know. It's just a means of eliminating people from his path.
Will we see you if the Omen series continues? If it takes
No, I don't think
3
so.
years?
I don't think so. The boy's, the man who's playing in the third one is 28 years old.
That would take a lot of makeup, wouldn't it?
That would take a lot of makeup.
Jonathan, good luck. You
Thank you very
were
much.
tremendous in
Thank
the
you.
Omen
Thank you
too.
very much.
Five deaths, 5 unexplained, horrible accidents. We are all in great danger.
You can't make me believe it.
You've got to believe it. He killed Mark, he killed Atherton and Bessarion. And he'll keep on killing. He'll kill anyone he thinks is threatening him.
Listen to yourself. Listen to how crazy you sound.
And I saw Charles killed. I saw Damien's face on the wall.
In Omen 1, biggest grosser, 1976.
Right.
Does that put pressure on you now for this one here? Because, you know, there's been a lot of disastrous sequels, and...
Puts a lot of pressure on, and we gave it great thought and went through 9 drafts of the script so that it wouldn't be a rip-off of Omen 1, but it would be its own picture in Omen 2, then you could see it without having seen Omen 1.
Yeah, it's a I would call it a continuation, yet you can see it as a separate picture.
That's right. That's right. It's awfully tough, and there is a lot of pressure, and truthfully, there's a lot of pressure because critics are all ready to pounce. But it's the public that you have to satisfy, and I think that we have satisfied the public. You know, if you don't give them what they had in Omen 1 and Omen 2, they're going to be disappointed.
Right. Now, can we just touch lightly on how the story came about? A religious advisor, which was a client of yours? Or?
No, a friend of mine named Bob Munger, who is a born-again Christian, a very successful advertising man, called me 4 years ago and said, come and have lunch. Yeah, I have an idea. So I had lunch with him, and he said, have you read the book of Revelation? Which I had not. And he said, well, listen, it's about the Antichrist, a young boy on earth. I ran out of the restaurant. Didn't even finish. Wrote a story, 7 pages, called David Seltzer, who worked for us at Walper, paid him the money in advance, and he wrote the script. That's how it happened.
But did this gentleman, or who, there was somebody who was convinced that there is Satan walking among them?
Well, you know, our religious advisors, like Dr. McBurney, he's the president of the California Graduate School of Theology, which is the biggest in the country, they are firm believers that the Antichrist is alive now, somewhere in Central Europe. Because of all the prophecies of the Bible are coming true. They are fervent believers that it is coming, that Armageddon is coming, and the Antichrist is alive. In fact, there's one program with a fellow, the King is Coming, who preaches nothing but the Antichrist.
Now, I know you were a non-believer before you started on the 2 films, but you had so many things happen. Can we see the...
Oh, my Ethiopian cross.
This is true now. Tell us the story about
Well, I put that on at the start of the picture. I got that cross when I was with Bill Holden way out in the bush in Ethiopia in 1968.
You're making documentaries?
Yes, I was doing, at that time I was doing that, Bridget Remagen, and if it's Tuesday it must be Belgium. And I had it, and when we were going to start this picture, certain things were happening, and I just put it on, and I was darn glad I put it on. I mean, I'm superstitious about this particular.
But so many things have happened in the making of this film.
Did happen. In the first film, they were really horrific. A lot of people died. In this film, there was circumstances kept going, and I hate to build a legend on it because people say, "Oh, you know, baloney," but it happens to be fact because, to me, I'm driving a sports car down the Santa Monica Freeway, and the rear right wheel came off. Now, rear right wheels just don't come off of cars. Some kids must have tried to steal the wheel. And then the next day, we went to Chicago, and our apartment caught on fire. We just redone it. And then my wife's jewelry was stolen. And then I had a warmer in my pocket, and I caught on fire, you know.
This person in the flame.
Yeah, the down caught on fire.
If you ever need a script, we've got a list of all the things that happened here. This would be an unbelievable movie script.
It would be.
What about now, when in the first movie, Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, of course, lost their lives at the end of the film. How did you had worked with Holden before?
Bill and I have done a lot of documentaries in Africa together, you know. Bill did Devil's Brigade is where I first met him when he did it for Walper.
So now we have Holden and Lee Grant.
Right.
And a new Damien.
New Damien, Jonathan Scott Taylor.
Now there are rumors that Ullman will continue. It'd perhaps be 3, 4 movies.
3, I think.
3.
Yeah, I think the next one, I have already written the story, by the way. And it's international in scope. The first 2 was the destruction of the families. The third one is where it's all going to happen. And we'll get a good unknown actor to play that, and surround them with really top actors like Bill and Lee and Greg. I mean, those, you know, they are fantastic people and pleasure to work with.
Well, I must say, for all my fans who watch the show, that Ullman 1 was tremendous, and the sequel, you matched it again.
Well,
fantastic.
I appreciate that. For a producer, that's about the nicest thing you could say.
And good luck in Ullman 3, 4, Son of Ullman, whatever.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
91,000 cheering fans, 33 exit gates. Somewhere in the stadium, an assassin waits.
Pan off it, Gary. Pan off it quick. Don't go back to that shot unless I tell you. Understand? Just stay off it. Move!
Who will his target be?
And 2-minute warning.
Yes.
And you have the roughest fourth quarter I've ever seen a fan have.
Well, now that you put it, I suppose put it like that.
And you're a fan. You're not even on the field.
Well, it's, you know, it's an interesting concept, the concept of a man, a person, obviously deranged, finds his way into a position of sniper in the torch in the proscenium portion of the Coliseum. It is the championship Super Bowl Sunday. And we meet, the audience meets various people in various walks of life that come to view this game. And we learn something about them as the game proceeds. We are privy to their fights and to their affairs and to their interest in the football game, all somewhat told through the eyes of this man up there who obviously is going to kill somebody. We don't know why. We have not the remotest idea why any of these people, or do they have anything to do with each other. And the terrifying conclusion, I think, you know, brings us to a not so unhappy evaluation, I mean a very unhappy evaluation of where we are in the world today. I suppose that we live in a violent world, so therefore, when you tell stories about the world and the people in it today, some of them, by necessity, must be violent.
Yeah. It will appeal, of course, to football fans because it has a lot of action going on, but I think that people who don't even care about football will enjoy this movie.
Yes, it's not a football-oriented picture in the sense that that football is the uppermost part of the story, or the most important part of the story, I should say. The people, including the football players, everyone is a participant, and it's an ensemble piece of acting, and I think, without patting myself in the back, but wishing to pay compliments to my other cohorts in this picture, I think it's well acted all the way around.
Real quickly, you've been tied up in television for the last few years.
Well, actually, tied up, yeah. Somebody untied me and let me go. I'm not doing Harry O anymore.
Right. Is it good to be back in the movies?
Well, it's always good. I think of each job as being a job of acting, not necessarily a job that will appear on television or appear on the widescreen. It's not my problem, you know, where things are shown. My problem is to do as good a job as I can, you know, with the material given.
Okay.
Thank you.
For football fans and everyone, 2-minute warning.
2-minute warning. Thank you.
Thank you. In case you came in late, my name is Bob Wilkins. I host a late Saturday night movie on Channel 3, and you've just seen one of the films here today that we've played on our show. Tomorrow, and up through the 21st, we'll be out here at Cal Expo. Tomorrow our film is Samson in the Wax Museum. It's a classic. Takes about an hour and a half to get it out of the way. Then, of course, there's a light show and the big Sears fashion show, all here at Cal Expo. And if we don't see you tomorrow, then I'll see you Saturday night on Channel 3 with the Late Show.
Why did you set up Simonson? Who pays your bills? You get life for that jerk. Life in a waste disposal plant in a soylent factory someplace.
I would want to live in the year 2033 after what I saw.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Bob, and I'm glad that that kind of a message got to you as the picture ended, because although it is a motion picture and it certainly is designed to be entertaining in quotes, I think the final and the most important part of the picture is that final message you just described, and that is that people sit in the theater afterwards and they think about what they just saw. They don't get up very fast, and they wonder if the world could ever come to a state as is depicted in Soylent Green. And what you're talking about, for the benefit of the audience, is the fact that one of our environmental problems of today has gotten to us and overwhelmed us, and New York, the mythical city, or the city in which we place our problem, is inhabited by 40 million people on in the 5 boroughs. And as a result of the inhabitation by so many people, as you know, there's not enough food, cars break down, all technology breaks down, and the entire population in all cities is in the hands of a cartel which controls the food supply. And the food is mostly synthetic. As a matter of fact, the word soylent is not a word you'll find in the English language or in a dictionary. It was coined by the producers of the picture from soybean and LENT solvent, a kind of a combination of a synthetic chemical and soybean is the inference. So we have Soylent Red, Soylent Yellow, people with cups in their hands, as you saw. Yeah. But when Soylent Green comes, it is the one which is the tastiest, and it is the food which has the most protein. And of course the crowds mill and sometimes riot to get Soylent Green. And there's a shock ending to that, as you know. I'd rather not give it away.
Yeah, I've been telling my fans that it's a science fiction movie, but it really isn't.
That's right.
I hope it is, but
it really isn't a science fiction picture, because, you know, if you read, and I'm sure you do, magazines, newspaper stories, talk to some of the informed people scientifically and what have you, I think we all, with any kind of intelligence at all, realize that there is such an environmental problem, and I call it that. There is the problem of overpopulation, the problem of not enough housing, the problem of air pollution, the problem of water pollution, the problem of earth pollution. All of these things affect not Americans, not Democrats, not Republicans, but all the peoples of the world. And if they don't all get together to solve them, eventually we could have a society as we saw, and you saw and I saw in Soylent Green, and that's why I think it's an important picture. I have nothing more to do with it. I worked in it months ago, and I could have easily turned down this trip and gone to work in another show. But I just felt that the message that we leave people with, as you described, my God, I hope I never see the world like this, because there's a realism about it that is frightening. And that's why we even put the titles at the end of the picture. Yeah. Because many people will sit there for a while and kind of look at their wife or their husband and think about it. My girl, who's in the picture, by the way, she played the attendant in Eddie Robinson's death scene.
I thought that last scene with Edward G. Robinson, the death scene, was very poignant.
Wasn't that poignant? Yeah. And it was also, it was poignant in terms of the real man's life and his part in the picture, because he was able to once more see, and of course the audience doesn't know what we're talking about now, once more see the world the way it used to be. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, as I sit here and I look behind us, you may see some greenery. You see a tree back there. Behind the cameraman there's more greenery, and we still have something of that left. But photosynthesis has disappeared in 50 years. The world is brown and black. People are alive, or are they alive? Are they existing like animals?
Debatable.
It's debatable.
Every house, every room you walked into, you literally had to climb over bodies.
Exactly. And that's exactly what could happen. So when you say, go see this picture, I say go see it because there is an entertainment value. You may disagree, I don't know. But more than that, there is a very visual, graphic, emphatic experience. It's an emotional and a visual experience to make people understand that something has to be done now about the year 2022.
George, I was just looking at a picture taken in 1966, and
Yes.
you haven't changed that much.
Bless your heart. But you need glasses.
Well, it might be a blurry print. No, the hair is down in the...
There's less of it up here now, too.
Yeah, but it's amazing how well they made everyone look in the new movie, you know.
We've got good makeup people there.
makeup
Yes,
people.
Fred Phillips is back again, for those that know the kind of contribution that he made to the TV series.
He worked on the TV series. How many people that worked on the TV show are involved in the new motion
You mean in the
picture?
crew?
Yes.
Not too many, as a matter of fact. Gene wanted to get as many of the original crew people back together as possible. The wardrobe designer, Bill Tice, who did a really fine, imaginative job, and the special effects people. But I'm afraid Fred was the only one of the original crew people that Gene was successful in bringing back.
What was the biggest problem that you had to overcome as an actor, and maybe the rest of the crew too, in taking Star Trek, the television show, and making it into a motion picture?
The problem for me as an actor was primarily that of the basic one of the transition from a television pace and rhythm to a motion picture rhythm and pace and luxury. Bob Wise is a very fastidious, relentless director, you know, and if he sees a certain nuance that he wants out of a particular scene, he will get it regardless of what, whether it's cost or time or... There's one sequence that I'm sure on the screen will play no more than about 2 minutes at most, a minute and a half. We spent over a week, about 7 or 8 days on that brief sequence. And in television, in that time, we would have had a full hour show done and finished and ready, you know. So for us, it was a matter of, you know, each time you do it, and you may have been doing it 5 days, that one scene, you know, to dredge up that sense of newness, that spontaneity, that feeling that it's happening right now all over again, despite the fact that you've been doing it for, you know, a week. That, I think, is, and I have a great deal of respect for motion picture actors now, having had that kind of experience. It's a good feeling to be able to really work at getting at as close as you can to perfection. Right. But at the same time, it demands a whole different kind of discipline on your part.
Did you have any apprehensions about the movie itself when it first started, the filming, the script, and so forth? Because as a Star Trek fan, and they will, I mean, you've been to many, many conventions where you heard the complaints, you know, Paramount's moving too slowly, and even if they had a beautiful script, or you can't go home again. That's what I'm trying to say. You were the television show was, you know, a classic. And here you're trying to go into another vehicle here. What were your feelings as it first started, and what are they today?
It's an exciting thing, you know, because to have this kind of opportunity, first of all, is very, very rare. To pick up where you left off 10 years ago, or in that case it was 9 years ago, you know.
It's just not done.
It's not just not done. It never happens, and here we had that unique opportunity. And then there's also that sense of anticipation on the part of the audience. And, you know, we saw the script. It's an exciting script, a very, very challenging script, and one that really stimulates both the mind and all the juices, you know. And so you say, here, we have the material here. There's that great expectation out there. And we're about to start the picture, and anything can happen, you know, during the shooting of the picture. Can we fulfill that anticipation and expectation that they have of us? And there's that challenge, and you know, all of us are fighters, and so that challenge, you know, stimulates you. Right. It really gets the juices going in you. But at the same time, you know, there's also that possibility of failure too. So it's a sense of excitement combined with a little trepidation, you know, and that's what makes acting such a risk-taking gamble. That at the same time is so exciting, because you really are living on the edge of life, you know. There you are, your face, your body in front of that camera, and sure, you have retakes and the opportunity to do it over again, but whatever is finally printed is going to be seen by hundreds of thousands of people out there. And if you miss...
That's the first week.
Exactly.
Right. What about, what kind of feeling do you have where we've got, I just have a few of the books here now, just we've got the comic book out now that describes the motion picture, The World of Star Trek by David Gerald. Of course, Leonard Nimoy's books have been out for a while. You even have a new book that we'll talk about in just a minute. But all the toy stores are full of things, the calendars. What kind of feeling does this give you because you're part of it? Is the whole Star Trek thing going to just blossom again?
It's a double-edged thing because some of the material that's coming out could be considered tacky, but it also is an expansion of the popularity of the show. People want a piece of the show, you know, whether it's as a lunch pail or whether it's as a T-shirt or a doll, or some very fine things are being produced, a very handsome decanter bust of Mr. Spock. Really well done, I think. Or there are things like windbreaker jackets, really finely done, handsome piece of design, you know. So good things are coming out of it as well. And I think it can, you know, to look at it positively, it's an expansion of the love that people have for the show, and they want to associate themselves in various ways and to have something of it that's tangible, you know. So I consider it a flattering expression on the part of the people that have contributed to this phenomenon.
I know you're going to be doing conventions literally all over the world again, so that world for you will start again.
The world of Star Trek indeed covers this planet, from Sydney, Australia to Munich, Germany.
We'll see you in Sacramento for several shows. I believe it's December 16th.
Yes.
And then December 17th in Walnut Creek. And on and on. It just keeps on going, and it's just amazing. I don't think a television show has had the longevity of Star Trek, and I cannot remember, well, I suppose there have been a few made into feature films, but it's usually the other way around.
Right.
And what do you see in the future now? The movie, they're lined up to see the film. Star Trek fans are really tickled with it. What do you see now for George Takei and the world of Star Trek?
If you recall the way the movie ends, it ends with it's out there. There's more of space, more of discovery, another challenge, and a further frontier beyond us. And with this kind of enormous success that Paramount is enjoying now, with, as you say, the people lined up around the theaters, I can't see Paramount not following up on it. And I'll let you in on a secret. The sets are still standing.
I see.
We finished shooting in February of 1979, but the sets have not been disassembled, and that's an expensive hunk of real estate for Paramount to keep going.
You're on a 24-hour call right down there in Los Angeles. So, in other words, the dream that Roddenberry and all of you have probably is that the same dream that the makers of the James Bond movies have, that every few years we'll see a continuing, not a continuing story, but another chapter. And I think that's the dream that
Wouldn't that be
the Star
grand?
Wars people are
That's right.
Continue. We can
They're coming back
next year.
Right.
Okay. George, thank you for being with us.
Good being with you.
Okay.
I always enjoy talking with you.
Thank you. It's Bob Wilkins for the Captain Cosmic Show. Now back to you, Bob.
Okay, go ahead.
As I said, Leonard, this will play on creature features, and I know many of my creature feature fans will be happy to know that you were into Lon Chaney.
What have creature features got to do with me? Yes.
First of all, you've been here, I guess, a couple hours. You must have signed 3,000 autographs. What do you think of these Star Trek fans?
Well, they really are fantastic. I have run up against another type of fan, which I won't bother to mention the name, and they're nowhere near like Star Trek fans. Like most of the people that you run up against in Star Trek are really well-mannered people, which, of course, it was a well-mannered show. And it seems as if just good people watch Star Trek.
It seems that way. No troublemakers, nothing.
Absolutely,
yet.
no.
How many conventions have you been to over the last couple of years?
At least just the last couple of years. Well, ever since they started, I guess I've been to maybe 20. You know.
Was this something that just seemed to build after the show went off the air?
Oh yes, and it's even getting bigger and bigger. I've just spent last weekend in Philadelphia, and I spend next weekend in Chicago. And these are just conventions. I go over to England in the middle of September. I go up to Denver in October, and I'll be going to Miami Beach in about a week before Christmas.
Have you ever been able to put your finger on why Star Trek created this phenomenon?
No, I think it was a lucky combination of a brilliant idea, you know, was well conceived and well done, and good casting, because the fans really like the cast of Star Trek. It's not just Star Trek alone. It's a question of the cast.
They believe in everybody.
That's right. Yeah, they really believe them, and not only that, Star Trek, the cast got along so well together. That also is a question of the sort of love and feeling that you get from all the fans that was present in the show. Because I don't think any other series can match the camaraderie that went on in Star Trek.
Yeah, when I talked to Gene Roddenberry, he says that he still is in constant touch with you fellows. That
yes.
You have a drink together now and then and talk on the phone.
Just a couple of weeks ago, Gene and I had about an 8-hour bachelor batch, or bash.
Yeah. What about all the fans want to know about the new movie that Paramount supposedly is
Well, Gene has
on,
completed his first draft, and of course, these things are never accepted the first time, but he hasn't even waited for their answer. He started into the second draft because working on deadlines, you always hurry something up, and so after the deadline, after he handed in the first draft, he started working on the second draft all on his own. In other words, anticipating what they were not going to like about the first draft.
Yeah.
And these things usually take 3 or 4 drafts before they start to work on budgeting this, that, and the other thing.
Do you hear from any other members of the original show about as far as their participation in the movie? Are they all willing to do it, let's say? Or?
Oh, yeah, they were. You know, certainly the last I talked to, shall we say, Bill Shatner about it was in January, and I think Bill is willing to do it. And but all these things are worked out in contract, but negotiations with contracts. But I'm pretty sure that they will offer Bill a very good fee for doing it.
Sure.
And the same with Leonard. And I would hate for them to think that in 20 years' time that because of a difference in, you know, a few $1,000s here and there, or this principle and that principle, that they did not decide to be in this classic.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what it is. It is a classic already. And always will be, yes. And as I say, 20 and 30 years from now, grandchildren are going to be watching the show, and it's wouldn't be too good if you weren't in one of the episodes, you know, or one of the feature films.
The last time you and I talked, you did discuss at one time that because Star Trek was so strong in the characters in the movie, because you were portrayed for many years, no matter what you did, they wanted the guy with the Scottish accent, and there was some difficulty in typecasting.
Yeah, you still have that problem too. I mean, others have it. I know D. Kelly has it. We were talking about that just you know, last month sometime, and it's a problem. But if Star Trek comes back, you know, and there's no doubt about it, it will. That problem's already solved, and I don't know. It's just one of those things. You get a bigger name, and then you can go and do all sorts of plays. Like Leonard has been able to be in a lot of plays because he got the name on Star Trek, and which he probably wouldn't have done if he had never got on a series as strong as Star Trek.
Yeah.
So he's able to go all over the country and do many different plays. A lot of plays he would never have done. You know.
One last question. If you had to pick one person that made this whole Star Trek dream possible, who would it be? Who put this whole thing together?
Oh, it has to be Gene Roddenberry. And as a matter of fact, Gene is the only one also to, shall we say, resurrect it. You know, as that's why I always, I've been told that I'm psychic, and so when I predict that it will be in the movie theaters at Easter time, you know, I don't want to really connect the resurrection because somebody else did it. I predicted it would be there by Easter time, and somebody else came in with the idea of, well, that's another
Easter.
resurrection.
That's this Easter.
It's coming Easter,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you. Nice to see you again.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay,
Jim.
Bob. It's a pleasure.
See you again.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
By the window, that is where I'll become tiptoe.
I have a science fiction and horror movie fan with me this evening. In fact, Tiny, wouldn't you really like to be in the movies, one of those type films, or not?
I sure would. Mr. Wilkinson, isn't?
Right.
Thanks. Mr. Wilkinson, I sure would, because frankly, you know, I've always liked mystery, and I've always liked, you know, the unknown. I really don't believe anything is really, you know, fiction or fantastic. It's just probably a gift of the Lord in the subconscious mind maybe years before, you see. Everything, that's been proven not only with the moon, but also with the submarine and so many other things.
Would you be the good guy or the monster, or what part would you like in one of these films?
I really don't know. Maybe I'd like to be the monster. Let's see what goes on. You know?
Would you grow more hair, or do you think it's suitable?
I don't know. You know, I think a lot of these horror movies are losing some of the effect because they haven't got 3D. I remember The House of Wax, shown in 1952, was a fantastic 3D picture, and nothing beats 3D. I don't know why the movies haven't gone back to that. Also, horror movies are very, very powerful when it comes to black and white instead of color, unless you really make it gory.
Now, a very timely question. Of course, the astronauts have landed on the moon, and a lot of people were disappointed that no life was found up there. Did you have any opinion on the subject at all, on life on the moon?
Oh, first of all, I'd like to say, if I may just add this, first of all, I hope that we won't forget, you know, to thank Christ for his blessings for man come to the moon, and not give all the credit to science or man, because if not for Christ, we never could have done this. Secondly, in the answer to your question, I would say, oh my goodness, one of the most shocking things is to hear now that they say there's no life on Mars. I mean, it's just like landing in a vacant spot. I mean, anyone who says there's no life on the moon really is taking a wild shot at nothing. Why, they haven't explored the moon. It's thousands of miles below, the thousands of miles all over. Who knows where San Francisco would be on the moon? I mean, that distance. Plus, they landed on a spot called New York on the moon, and San Francisco is thousands of miles away. It's incredible to say that there's no life. I believe there's life on every planet. It hasn't changed my opinion one iota.
What do you see in the moon? What type of people do we look for? They have short hair, or what?
I can only fantasize. And of course, my ideas have been taken from others, which I've added to my own, and also, you know, agree with this. First of all, I would say, I never told this to anybody, but in 1964, when one of the first ships went on to the moon to land on it, I'm telling you the real honest truth, at 5 o'clock in the evening, I had a dream. I was sleeping late that day, and I had a dream that my hand was touching the moon and picking up the sawdust, you know, the sand was like sawdust on the moon. And now I was shocked to hear that this is almost the description that the astronauts gave it when he landed. So, thank God, I'll tell you this right now. I believe that people are living underneath the rocks, way thousands of miles under their cities underneath the rocks on the moon. I believe they look like this. They look either greenish, very small people, greenish-like, with no hair or anything on their heads, and probably with round eyes and antenna-like things coming out, or either that or they're black like silhouettes, like a gingerbread man. I believe that's the description, and they're probably lighter than air.
I see. Tiny Tim with some opinions on what we can look forward the next time we land on the moon.
Hi, this is Rob Wilkins, son of the late great Bob Wilkins of Creature Features. Be sure to check out the new Creature Features with Vincent, Livingston, and the lovely Tangella every Saturday night. Nice. See you then.